Professor Mamidala Jagadesh Kumar ji, to kindly come and address the gathering with his august word. Let us all put our hands together and welcome Professor Mamidala Jagadesh.
Dr. V.K. Saraswat, distinguished colleagues, students, educational institutional heads, faculty members, and other invitees, my pranams to you. I would like to thank AICRA for inviting me to share some of my thoughts with you. Friends, we have only one earth, and that earth has to be saved. That can happen only when all of us work collectively. We need to quickly transition to practices which will ensure that our activities on earth do not negatively impact the earth which is sustaining us. And this can happen only when we scientifically innovate, technologically develop advanced applications, and be socially committed. If you look at India during last decade or so, many of these things are already happening. For example, the CO2 emission. It's only 2.9 tons per person in India, which is far below the average CO2 emission per person globally, which is far, far below the CO2 emission per person in most advanced countries. We had set a goal to produce 20 gigawatts of solar power, and we realized it within the deadline, so we raised the bar to 100 gigawatts, which will have a positive impact on our environment. Today, when we are talking about STEM, science, technology, and the corresponding innovations, what is the ultimate goal? Why do we need to innovate? Let me share three things with you. And I would like to see, and the real VIPs who are sitting there, the young students there, I would like them to brainstorm on how STEM can be used to address some of these challenges. One of the biggest challenges that we have in the world is the uneven economic growth, the failing economic institutions, the issue of extreme poverty, the challenge of multidimensional poverty, lack of access to good health care, lack of access to good education, and so on. And today, we are also faced with one of the biggest challenges, the climate change, which is related to the environmental degradation, the loss of biodiversity, the desertification, the ocean and land degradation, air pollution, and so on. Today, globally, we are struggling to keep the rise in global temperature below 2 degrees centigrade as compared to the global temperature of pre-industrial era. So this has become a global challenge for us. And another challenge we see across the globe is the kind of development that is taking place. Recently, our Honorable Prime Minister said, the real development of a country can take place only if there is a grassroots development. We have set a goal for ourselves of making our country a completely developed country by 2047. And how is that possible unless the development is women-led development, unless the development takes place at the grassroots level. Friends, you are aware that even today, 65% of Indians live in rural areas. And you know that in our country, nearly 50% of the population is below 25 years. That means a large number of young people, they are living in villages, in small towns, and they do not have access to high quality education, high quality skills, so that they can effectively participate in the economic growth of this country. Most of them are dependent on agriculture or other activities. It is our responsibility, using science and technology innovations, to create much more diversity in the economic activities of these people who are in large majority living in the rural areas. We should also ensure that using science and technology, we promote local entrepreneurship among these rural communities so that they sustain and upscale these diverse economic activities. Friends, there is a lot more that needs to be done if we want to realize the dream of making our country a completely developed country by 2047. I would like to add a couple of things here. How can we make use of science and technology to realize that the development is inclusive, it is women-led, it is youth-led? A couple of thoughts. One, we need to strengthen our research ecosystem in our universities. There are only 6% of the students, 6% of the 4 crore students in the higher educational institutions who are in the institutions such as IITs, NITs, and central universities. The remaining 94% of the students are in the university ecosystem. And as I said, majority of them are in the rural areas. So unless you strengthen the research ecosystem in these institutions, how do we ensure that our country will become a completely developed country? And that's the reason why we have taken several steps, especially the reforms in higher education that are taking place, are directly aimed at improving the teaching learning processes and the research ecosystem in the vast number of universities and colleges that are spread across the country. I'll give you one example. The focus now on multidisciplinary education. Globally, if you see, in all advanced countries, the STEM education is multidisciplinary. People do not super specialize. You know, the kids who are sitting there, you know that a pure metal is ductile, is corrosive, is weak. But if you add, let's say steel, if you add carbon in that, it becomes an alloy. It becomes very strong. If you add chromium, it will become less corrosive. So an alloy, which is a combination of several metals, is always much better than a pure metal. So therefore, UGC through NEP 2020 implementation is emphasizing on bringing this multidisciplinarity in the STEM education also. Just to give you an example of how multidisciplinarity helps people in building big systems, Chris Gopal Krishnan, all of you are aware, he is the co-founder of Infosys. He did his BSc and MSc in physics, and then he did his MTech in computer science. Physics is all about understanding nature. Computer science is all about using computers and software to build applications. But this multidisciplinarity has brought out a great entrepreneur in our country. But we want many more such entrepreneurs in our country, and that is possible only we introduce multidisciplinarity in our education. Friends, there are many reforms that are being introduced in higher education so that young people like you will become great entrepreneurs, great scientists and technologies. And recognizing such efforts always is an encouraging thing. It motivates many more people to come forward and contribute. And I would like to congratulate all those who are receiving the awards today for the innovations, for the contributions that they have made in the STEM area. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much.